What's going on, everyone? Boylon here, and hope everyone is having a great Monday and start to their week. Today we're going to be doing another episode of my team review series where we go over the pros and cons of each member of the team, and in this case, who you should use and who you should probably pass on. For this episode, we are going to be talking about AIM, and that's because of the flexibility that the team provides, and they're quite a popular one for use in a variety of game modes, including campaigns, especially the new Villain 7-1 to 7-3. They're also usable in the AIM Gamma Raid lane, and also quite good in Alliance War, either as part of AIMtron or just by themselves. There's plenty of ways to use them, and frankly, I think they're kind of one of the best reworked minion teams to date. Not to mention Scientist Supreme was elevated to amazing heights when they were reworked. After we go over the team, I'll show off some gameplay footage of my AIM team, and then provide my final thoughts on the team as a whole. So without further ado, let's get into it, guys. So we're going to kick this video off with the headmistress herself, Scientist Supreme. Like I said in my intro, I think she was the largest recipient of buffs to her kit in the rework, and while I sort of forget all of the major changes to her kit from the rework, let me tell you that AIM was a load of flaming garbage before, and now they got changed to one of the best sort of minion-S teams in the game. As you can see, my own Scientist Supreme is largely maxed out at tier 14, and I've used her in Dark Dimension 3 Global Lane, but admittedly she probably isn't as effective as someone like Shuri is for it, but that's a different video for a different time. Anyways, let's get into her kit and find out why she's so good. So to start off on her basic Serum Pistol, it's a pretty standard damaging move, but it applies 2 random negative effects to the primary target. Now this is going to be either offense down, defense down, or speed down. I want to make people aware that whenever you see this text, apply random negative effects to the target, it's only going to include those 3. It doesn't include anything like bleeds, disrupt, or ability block, unless I'm missing something else as well. It only includes the first 3. It's still a very good basic move though, but don't T4 this. Now we have Field Trials, her special. This is where things start to get juicy. Not only does this have an energy cost of 3, but it's also part of why she's so good. She flips 3 negative effects into positive effects for all allies at level 6, and for AIM allies this applies regen to herself and all allies for 2 turns, and any existing positive effects on herself and AIM allies have the duration increased by 1. Now this part is usually a bit overlooked, and to be honest I kind of forgot about this myself until I looked over it. Now the reason why I T4'd this is largely due to when I was using her in Ultimate 7. She was a very popular choice before the difficulty rework due to how many debuffs you'd often encounter, including heal blocks and bleeds in Ultimate 7. Nowadays, I'm not sure if people still use her as frequently, but if you do, then definitely consider T4'ing this one. This is an amazing ability with a low cooldown. Now, Scientist Supreme's ultimate Retro Vaccination is really what makes her who she is. So she does heal all allies for a flat amount, plus 15% of her max health, but she applies 2 to 3 random negative effects to all non-AIM allies and minions. Now this is really amazing if you're running an AIM team, but it's also great in other instances when you're not, because paired up with her special, you can just flip the debuffs on your team into positive buffs. Where you do have to be careful with this move is if you're using her in Ultimus or other raids, for example, and it does make your team a little bit vulnerable for a little while until her turn comes back around for you to flip. If you're using her in an AIM team, you also get extra focus for this ability as well. Her ultimate is on a 3 energy cooldown, cementing her as one of the best support characters in the game due to her extremely low cooldowns, and pairs up really well with other characters who can extend or spread debuffs. The symbiotes are the first ones that come to my mind on this part with Venom's ultimate, but maybe you could make a case with Scarlet Witch, and I don't know, maybe there's some others that can really take advantage of the debuffs. In terms of T4s, I don't think this is really necessary because it's just an extra flat HP, and the focus really shouldn't make a huge difference when she already gets so much for this when you're using her in an AIM team. It almost never misses unless you're, maybe going up against a Jessica Jones or something like that. And to top her off, we have to look at her passive Mad Science. Now, if you didn't think she could get any better, she gets speed bar on spawn by 10% plus 10% per AIM ally, which in a full AIM team, she's usually going first or pretty close to it. She also has a whopping 25% chance to revive any dead allies between 20 to 25% of their max health, depending on if they're AIM or not. This can help tremendously in raids if you're using her, but even clutch on war matches where this could make a difference between winning or not. Or if you're using them on the defense with, say, Ultron, maybe you could even get Ultron to revive potentially through this mechanic. She also grants ability energy to all AIM allies with negative effects on her turn. This usually is most likely to happen to AIM Security, who often has slow from taunting, maybe occasionally AIM Assaulter, and I guess AIM Infector, but we're going to talk about that later, because I don't really like AIM Infector personally. Or unless you're just fighting other enemies that debuff. Overall, this passive is really amazing and really cements Dear Scientist Supreme as a truly awesome support character. And I don't really recommend putting T4s into this one. It doesn't, unless you're really going ham on them, I don't think it really makes a huge difference. Not much more I can say about this already awesome character, but it's seriously night and day if you saw what she was like before, when she was such a flaming piece of garbage, including the rest of the AIM team. This is a great example of taking a character from like F tier all the way up to the top. I don't think anyone else has gone this far from 0 to hero. But anyways, if you still need to farm her up, then you can find her shards available in Cosmic 2-9, which isn't terribly hard to get to, and of course any of the orbs, the premium orbs, milestone orbs, and these weird legacy ones as well. And next up is Graviton, the more recent addition to the AIM team, but really brings the damage and a lot of negative stats effects. I got a bit lucky for pulling a strong 6 red star pull on him back in the day, and I just recently activated it, bringing his power level up quite a bit now, so I'm sitting at about almost 68k for him. But let's get started by taking a look at what makes Graviton so awesome. Now, his basic Gravity Well really does a good job at taking advantage of debuffs. He does 200% to the primary target, and for every negative effect on the target, he gains an additional 75% bonus damage. This might not sound like a lot, but can really stack up given how many debuffs AIM throws around, including bleeds from Assaulter. This is also an amazing move for attacking those Dodger types, or anyone with stacks of Deathproof, as the additional attacks just melt through those. The T4 is a bit tempting on it, but I don't think it's used too much until the later part of the battle, and I don't think it's going to make a crazy amount of difference to the fight outcome. So I would take a pass on this one for now. His special Crushing Force is great. It's a 3 ability energy move, and he starts with this as well. Also his ultimate on turn 1, so he starts with both moves actually. Attacks primary target and adjacent targets for 240% damage, and applies 2 turns of slow up to a maximum of 5. In the event they're slowed already from Scientist Supreme's ultimate, this will just add on more turns. And if she's an ally, which she normally is going to be, it also applies bleed to all targets as well. This is a great move and on a low cooldown, and whether you use this or the ultimate will likely depend on your matchup. Don't tend to invest too much. I wouldn't put T4s in this personally, though. Anything that has just damage usually gets a pass on me. Singularity, his ultimate, also really does take advantage of those stacks of debuffs. It does 250% damage plus 100% damage per additional debuff, and it applies stun. Kind of like its basic, this can really stack up in damage. It's not impossible to have like anywhere from 3 to 6 debuffs. Each stack of bleed counts as one of these as well, so that'll increase the damage by 100%. So anything from AIM Assaulter's basic. I've seen this move hit for well over 100,000 before, and it goes well in conjunction with Graviton's passive that takes advantage of low HP, as we'll see in a second. Again, though, just damage on the T4s, so don't upgrade this. So his passive, Weight of the World. So when an enemy drops below 50% health, increase the duration of their negative effects by 1 up to a maximum of 5. So this is what I was talking about with his ultimate, and is normally he's ulting after Scientist Supreme uses hers, so there's plenty of debuffs on the enemy. The amount of damage his ultimate can do usually brings a character down past the 50% mark, and actually that can turn a 1-turn stun into a 2-turn stun, as he'll prolong all the negative effects. He also provides some extra damage and max health to AIM minions, which is awesome. And he does have some Vortex down here as well, so he can reduce the speed bar on his turn of an enemy with the highest speed by 25%, which isn't bad. And taking an enemy below 75% applies Disrupted. Now, this is on both of these techs are on any war, so it can be offense or defense. So it really adds to the flexibility of the team. So depending on where you want to put them, you have the choice for that, which is great. The T4 of this ability, the T4 of this ability is okay, but because it's just minions, it's a bit of a pass to me. If it was all AIM, including himself, then it would be a little bit better. Or if it increased max health, but just 10% damage for just the 3 minions that you probably have afterwards. Not too sure about that. Now, where can you find shards for Graviton if you need them? He's actually in the war store, so don't get confused by the fact that you don't see that here. So you can actually find him there outside of the orbs, and also the Blitz right now, at least as of this video, the Minister of Science Blitz. He does appear in the war store, which is a bit coveted because Sif, Carnage, and Sinister, to name a few good characters, are also in there. So I haven't been able to dedicate farming him quite yet, so most of my shards are just kind of slow trickle incomes from other orbs, basic orbs, and things like that. But Graviton really is amazing. Alongside Scientist Supreme, the two you definitely cannot go without on an AIM team. And he brings a fair bit of damage and additional debuffs to the field as well. Not to mention he looks pretty cool. He's got a flowing cape. I like characters with capes. And it's a nice nod to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. if anyone watches that show. I think he came out around the time that he became a villain there. A little bit of a spoiler. But I do like his model. I think he looks really cool as well. And that's Graviton. Now, here we're going to go into a bit of a quick fire round of the minions. So there are 4 other minions left, but you can only choose 2. Now, as you can see, the ones that I do have leveled up is AIM Monstrosity and AIM Security. And largely this is for red star reasons, although I do have a 5 red star and a 4 red star for AIM Researcher. But AIM Monstrosity really makes a huge difference, and AIM Security is the tank. So, oh, sorry, I forgot AIM Assaulter because he's here on the front. So again, 5 red stars. So I choose AIM Assaulter, AIM Monstrosity, and AIM Security. These are largely the ones that most people will go to. The only way that I would consider using any of these other ones is if you had maybe 6 or 7 red stars and your other ones were crap. But really, AIM Assaulter, AIM Monstrosity, and Security are kind of the go-to minions for this. And we'll start with AIM Assaulter, and I'll kind of go through why. We will end up getting to AIM Infector and Researcher, but I just don't think they're as good. I've even fought against them in defense, and they're a lot worse than the others. So we'll start with AIM Assaulter. So AIM Assaulter, he is the blaster type of the group, and he's tech actually. So there's quite a few tech characters in AIM. So his submachine gun, they have less abilities obviously because they're minions. So this is just a basic standard attack, primary target damage plus bleed for 2 turns. The bleed for 2 turns is actually pretty good, and he's really quick. So he actually can start stacking up bleeds using this. His special Hyperdose, this is kind of the main one that got reworked, and I don't even want to go over like AIM prior to the rework, but they were just garbo. And attack primary target for 200% damage. If this character has a negative effect, bonus attack the primary target for 100% per negative effect on the target. Gain speed up for 4 turns. That's bonkers. 4 turns of speed up, like he's never going to lose that. Now, I do want to point out this ability, because this has been not controversial, but people often get confused about what this actually does. So AIM Assaulter has to have the negative effect, not the enemy, and a lot of people got confused about that. So for every negative status effect that AIM Assaulter has, he does a bonus attack for 100% per one of them. So it's kind of rare actually that AIM Assaulter is going to have negative effects, mostly because AIM Security, as we'll see, absorbs them and reflects them back at the enemy, and with Scientist Supreme being able to flip them. So there's only in certain instances probably that you're going to have a status effect on you. However, if you do, you're going to get 100% damage extra per effect. If you can have, I don't know, let's say bleeds, for example. If you have like 3 or 4 bleeds, this is going to do 300 to 400% more damage. And you'll see it because like his attack animation, just he keeps shooting over and over again, depending on how many status effects he has. It's pretty cool, but it doesn't happen that often. In terms of T4s on this, don't think it's recommended. Same with the basic. Don't T4 that. Juicer, his passive is really nice here. So on turn, fill speed bar by 10% for him and all the adjacent AIM allies. So we'll see later on the way that I sort of lay out my AIM team in battle has the 2 adjacent ones to him. We're going to get 10% more. And he also gets 10% damage and max health. This is a really tempting T4. I haven't done it yet, but because T4s are very valuable, and I'm kind of using it on some of my more meta characters right now, like my Symbiote team and things like that, and newer characters that get released. So I would do this if I had more available. On turn, fill speed bar by 10% more and adjacent. So that would turn this to 10% from 10% to 20%, which is pretty good because we all know that in a game like this, speed really is king. So an extra 10%, and his speed is already super high. So his turn comes around way more frequently than everyone else, given that he's got a speed stat of I think 118, but he constantly has a speed up from his special. So this happens quite frequently. So the passive would trigger that much more. Very tempting. Very tempting out of all the T4s for AIM. This would be something that I would consider. So next is a monstrosity. Now he's a beast, as we'll see in some of my footage that I have later on when we play the gameplay footage. He can do a lot of damage. This was hands down the worst character of the AIM team, but even of the whole entire roster prior to the rework. His model also is like, I think, a reskin of Hulk, because he kind of looks like that, the way that he just holds his arms out like that. Anyways, he's the brawler of the team, and he's kind of quite basic, but his damage numbers are quite high. So attack primary target for 280% damage, 90% chance to apply defense down. Now, that's nice. Don't bother with a T4, an extra 10% chance. That's pretty awful, to say the least. And you'd be surprised how much this hits for, actually, when they have defense down. Sudden evolution. Now this was reworked, and this is really good. Before it used to just, I think, offense up him and apply a defense down. Now it does attack primary target for 250% damage, gain offense up, and apply offense up to adjacent AIM allies for 3 turns. This is crazy, and it's on a 3 energy cooldown. Attack cannot miss, and this is cool too. So he gains offense up, but he only gains it for 1 turn, I think, but there's plenty of ways to extend this with Scientist Supreme Special and things like that, and then everyone else gets it for 3 turns. This does a lot of damage. The T4 is interesting because when you upgrade it, he gets the offense up before the attack. Now, the only time where this is going to matter is in the beginning of the fight, because typically after that he's almost always going to have offense up anyway, so this part is not going to really matter, but this will matter in the beginning. Some people have T4'd it. You know, it's tempting for me because I have a really powerful AIM monstrosity, but the damage and that, like, it's okay. It's definitely not required by any means, but it's okay. You know, if I had more T4s, I would probably drop that into this, because that could make a little bit of difference in the burst damage in the first round, especially with Graviton being able to apply Disrupt when they get knocked to 75%. And his passive, Growth Spurt, on spawn gain defense down, so that's largely to flip, I think, with Scientist Supreme later on. And then on turn, heal for 15% max health, and upgrading this would be an extra 5%. Not really that worth it, in my opinion. Overall, he's a really strong powerhouse. You'd be surprised given how basic his kit is, but he does apply offense up to the adjacent allies, and so in this case, just like Assaulter, the placement does matter for this. So we'll see when we get to the gameplay footage later where I do end up placing them together. Great character, does a lot of damage, does his role well, and he's got quite a bit of hit points as well, and his damage stat is usually through the roof. Now, AIM Security. This is the other sort of quintessential required character for the AIM team. So AIM Security here is Tech Protector. So there's him with her with AIM Assaulter are the other tech characters alongside the Scientist Supreme, assuming that you're not using the other 2 below. So the basic, attack primary target for 230% damage. If ability blocked, attack for 430% damage instead, and apply slow. I don't know how many instances this would happen, to be honest, because you'll see with the passive, when AIM Security gets hit with any debuffs, normally she throws it back. So I've had this happen like maybe a handful of times, and it really is depending on who you're going up against. But I don't know. This is kind of weird. But hey, I guess if she's lower health, her ability to reflect debuffs is dependent on her health. So it's possible this could happen. Oh, also not worth the T-Force. Just damage. Charge Capacitor, the taunt. So gain taunt for 1 turn plus slow for 2 turns. What's interesting about this is that even though it's only a 1-turn taunt, she slowed. So it actually kind of lasts longer in that way, unless you flip it. Heal self and adjacent allies for 7,000 health plus 10% of max health. This is actually this is fairly sizable, though I do put her on the far end next to Graviton, as we'll see in my placement later, so it doesn't hit that many players. But you know, this depending on where you'd want to put her, I wouldn't put her in the center or anything like that, but it is a lot of healing for a tank character. And then clear speed up on self. So normally this is just to prolong her for taunting longer, hence clearing the speed up and things like that. T4 not worth it, just adds 3,000 health. You know, maybe if it was like plus 10% max health, I'd consider it, but not that. And the passive, this is what makes AIM Security so great. On attack, if Scientist Supreme is an ally, when above 75%, transfer 1 negative effect from self and each AIM ally to the attacking enemy. Now, this is just amazing. This is an amazing skill. If you ever go up against Brotherhood, for example, and Magneto does his ultimate blinding everyone, she chucks back all the blinds back at Magneto again. So, you know, this is really good for going up against any team that has AoE negative status effects. And I'm thinking about Mordo with the heal block, chucks all the heal blocks back. Like I said, Brotherhood and anyone else who really does that. Even another AIM team, you know, could do that too. Gain plus 10% max health and resistance. Not worth the T4s, but this alone is a surprisingly amazing skill, as we'll see when we look at the gameplay footage later. And that's AIM security. Sorry, go back to the characters. Where can you farm them? I forgot this part here. So Heroes Assemble is 5-3 for AIM Assaulter. Here, this is a pretty early node, so you can farm him pretty easy. I think it's a him. And AIM Monstrosity also in the Blitz store, so this is a pretty easy farm. There are a lot of other Blitz characters nowadays, though, so I don't know. Maybe I would just consider doing the Blitz Orb and just mass farming that way. And AIM Security is in Villains 5-3, so not that difficult of a node. A little bit further on, but a fairly early game node, I would say. And now we'll jump over to the other ones. So AIM Infector and AIM Researcher. I didn't bother with these two, but you could if you want to. So AIM Infector, I have a hard time recommending these, but you know, if your red stars are way bonkers on these and not so good on the others, then maybe I can make a case for it. So we'll go over it anyways, though. So AIM Infector. So attack primary target. I don't even have it maxed for 6. Attack primary target for 210% damage. Copy all negative effects on this character to the primary target, plus 50% chance to apply a random negative effect. So I think this is related to, well, as we'll see, the other skills. So basically, any negative effects that AIM Infector has will get transferred over to the target that he hits. And Biohazard, so the special fills speed bar by 50% if I had this at level 6. And heal for the 6,000 health plus 20% of max health if we had level 6. Always gain counter for self and adjacent allies. Now, counter is not really an amazing skill in my opinion, at least for AIM. It doesn't really make a huge difference. And then plus 50% chance to apply counter. Oh, wait, no, so always getting yes. So like all of that is to do with counter. So all the AIM minions get counter. I mean, the level 7 speed bar, 75%, I just... counter's not a crazy thing for AIM. I don't think it's going to make a huge difference in them being able to win. But the passive here, so on turn, gain 1 random negative effect for 2 turns. So, and then on turn... Wait, what's this? Gain speed and max health. Okay. On turn, gain 1 random negative effect for 2 turns. On turn, if offense down, gain offense up. So basically, any negative effects that... AIM Infector is going to have then gets turned into a 2-turn version of that, and then that negative effect that he does have is meant to be transferred via the basic. So it's interesting. It's definitely an interesting mechanic, but I don't think in terms of the overall damage or even overall difference for the AIM team, it's not going to make a huge difference. They're already getting a lot of debuffs from Scientist Supreme, so I don't really know why you would need to really double up on that here, because it's not extending it, you know, with a maximum of such and such turns. Damage is a bit on the low side for AIM Infector as well, so I just have a hard time recommending this. Like I said, only if your red stars were crazy. You got a 6-7 red star AIM Infector, and the rest were low. Now we'll get to AIM Researcher. The other reason why I don't recommend AIM Researcher either is because I don't think you need any more healing than they already have through Scientist Supreme and AIM Security for adjacent allies. But we'll go over the kit anyways. So it's the support version of AIM, skill support. So interestingly, skill, the only one I think out of all of them that do actually take skill gear, bio, AIM Monstrosity's bio, security and assaulter attack, and Scientist Supreme's attack, and Graviton's bio. So AIM Researcher, wounding shot. So this is a pretty basic move. It does apply offense down for 1 turn, or 90% chance is pretty much guaranteed, and some damage. So that's okay. But again, a lot of these things, you know, Scientist Supreme is already going to apply. Surgery drone. So this is the heal, and I only have it at 4. So it heals the lowest ally and adjacent allies for adjacent to the lowest health ally for 3,000. No, wait, hold on. 7,000, 13,000, I think, at level 6, plus 15% of max health, and 75% chance to flip bleed on the lowest health ally. So I mean, it's a fair chunk of healing, and it's on a low cooldown. But again, I think by removing one of the other characters for AIM Researcher, that you're gonna struggle damage wise. The only reason why you might want to use her if you're using her for villains, the new villains chapter or something like that that requires additional sustain for whatever reason, or if you're using them in raids, I guess, for the same reason. But aside from that, I don't know. And the passive antidote on turn, 25, I don't know, 75% chance, adding up these other ones, to choose one random ally to apply one random positive effect from the list, offense up to. This is interesting though, because you do get additional ones, not just the usuals, but you do get regen, deathproof, and deflect. If this ally's aim, apply 2 of them from the list. I think, let's double check here. Yeah. So, and then when a negative effect is applied to an aim ally, fill this character speed, fill aim researcher speed bar by 10% if you had level 4. So it's an interesting passive, but again, I think it's a lot of things that they don't even need anymore. I think between Scientist Supreme really fills this role, a lot of the roles already. Scientist Supreme applies negative status effects to the enemy, and they also flip any ones that you have onto the team as well. So, you know, I have a hard time finding good things to say about them, but I actually can't even tell where they found. I actually forgot where to find the other 2, but I think Aim Researcher is in the Arena store, and I don't even remember where Aim Infector actually is to farm, and I don't want to hit the rank up button. So if you guys care about Aim Infector, you can probably find it through the find button. Sorry about that one. But yeah, I have a hard time justifying Aim Researcher or Aim Infector into the team because there's just a lot of overlap with what they can do with everyone else, and I think really these top 5 are going to be the optimized one. So these are my favorite 5, but hey, if you guys want to try something different, then by all means, you know, go right ahead. I just have a hard time recommending it. And this is the part of the video where we go into the gameplay footage for AIM. I did find us some Alliance War offense footage for you guys and some Blitz 8.2, which I'll show. So both of these are, one of them is a punch across in War, and the Blitz match is a pretty significant punch up for AIM, just to show sort of the way I play AIM and also the placement of my characters in battle. So without further ado, let's get into it. Right, so I found us a Guardians team that we're going to use my AIM team against here in Alliance War offense. I'm pretty convinced that they can punch largely across the Guardians, even though Groot actually can cleanse debuffs. So we're going to see here, I think the overall amount of debuffs that Scientist Supreme applies to everyone, I think is more than enough to keep it going. Especially because Rocket Raccoon and Star-Lord attack pretty early on. And so normally they'd be debuffed before Groot actually cleanses. Now at that point, usually Scientist Supreme can loop back around and get her ultimate off again, and then we just sort of start clearing out the members one by one. So we're going to see if that's actually how it's going to work out and how it's going to play out in this war. We are in the cargo bay, and I didn't actually consider that just now. So there might be some immunity. Yeah, there is an immunity, 2 immunities, one on Rocket, which is actually a bit unfortunate. So he's not. Ow! He's not gonna get that. But Star-Lord will, and he has offense down. So whoever he hits, hopefully it's not. Okay, that's okay. My Scientist Supreme's fairly beefy actually. So we're forced into Groot here. That's okay. He's got the defense down. He's gonna take a lot of damage. He might actually die before he. I think actually Scientist Supreme will get another turn. I was thinking of just basicking, but yeah, so Groot is... Oh, Groot... Oh, frick. So Groot revived, which is really annoying. We're going to flip that and get some extra regens on everyone, hopefully allow them to survive. I need to debuff Rocket Raccoon before he gets to his ult, and I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. Flipping, sending back some of these buffs. Now we're stuck behind Drax, which can get unfortunate. So this is a bit annoying with AIM, is that they don't actually have any clears, so they can't clear positive effects, so they kind of just need to beat into someone until they die. And so at this point we kind of have to do that. Drax does have Disrupt. He's basically dead, but I think Rocket's gonna get his ult off probably here. We do get Drax down though, but I think it might be too late to stun Rocket, and now Graviton's gonna bite it. And actually I didn't even get my ultimate off. I should have done it on Drax, but I was trying to see if I could save it for someone else. Now, hopefully, hopefully we can see if any of them get a revive from Scientist Stream. So we have the debuffs now, so everyone aside from Groot can be hit by this. And we actually didn't get counterattacks. We're going to taunt again, and hopefully that will help out. We need to get Rocket down. I think he's the most, even though he had defense up, I think he's the most threat. He's the biggest threat here on the team right now. We load him up with some bleeds. He's pretty close to death. He just needs, and they're stuck behind. There's the cleanse, stuck behind aim security there. So Rocket's down. So I think this is where it's going to start to go better here, I think, and then we're gonna need to get Star-Lord down next. Normally, I mean, I would get the healer, but Mantis, in my opinion, is not a huge priority. They're pretty squishy, so we just want to get down the other damage dealer types, and then we'll work on it. I'm surprised there hasn't been any revive. Scientist Supremes has like 3 turns to possibly revive Graviton, but it hasn't happened yet. Normally, it's pretty good about it. Looks like we didn't need him anyways, at least just to take some hits. But man, like aim is pretty good. Like even stuck behind taunts, like with all the debuffs and stuff. Heal again and put some more debuffs. Mantis is basically dead, and my aim monstrosity just hit for 127k on a basic. My aim monstrosity hit for 127k on a basic, and that is just well, he did have offense up, but still, you know, aim monstrosity used to be formerly the most bottom character of the game. Worst minion in the game, and he went, you know, and he's hitting for 127k. That's just bonkers, I think. Oh, and Graviton revives at the last minute. Not that it matters, but okay. And we won that, so that's one battle there for Alliance War. Punching, I think we punched up, didn't we? Like 15k, maybe? Not a lot, and you know, it's not the most threatening team, but I just want to show you an example of some of the things that AIM can do in Alliance War. And here I just wanted to show off my AIM team here in Blitz. So this is Blitz 8.2 against a Supernatural team of 460. It is quite a bit of a punch up, but I think we might be able to do it. I just want to show off my lineup here in case people didn't see before. So normally I have a Scientist Supreme here with AIM Assaulter and AIM Monstrosity. So this is so that Scientist Supreme and AIM Monstrosity can get the passive speed bar boost by AIM Assaulter every time he takes his turn. They get 10%, I believe it is, speed boost here with Graviton and AIM Security on the side. I've been running this setup for a while. Sometimes people put, instead of Scientist Supreme, they'll put Graviton here, maybe, or next to AIM Monstrosity or whatever, because Graviton is pretty good damage as well, but AIM Monstrosity is one of the slowest members, so he definitely needs that extra speed bar boost, and he hits like a truck. And Scientist Supreme more so that she can get her ultimate and all of her abilities back around a bit quicker. So I think this will work. I think because most of the debuffs that even though they're debuff heavy, I think throwing it at me is going to end up reflecting it back with AIM Security. And that's why I love AIM Security so much. And why I love AIM is because debuffs almost never work on AIM. Because especially if it's AoE debuff, then AIM Security will just reflect it back on whoever sent it to them. So, especially like Mordo's ultimate and with the heal block, he normally just chucks it back. So, I really like this. And they'll be going first here. Scientist Supreme. So, the fact that they're debuffed already makes it a huge difference. And we want to beat into Doctor Strange, because that's typically what you want to do when you're facing supernatural teams. So, we'll see if we can get Doctor Strange here really quick. I think Graviton will be able to just smash him, I think. Here with the... Oh, pretty close. Okay. And we actually extended the stun here, so it's like 2 turns of stun. So you see that all that bleeds is just being chucked back, and these will be chucking back more stuff, and that should chuck more stuff back as well. So most of their debuffs are almost gone now. We'll continue beating into Strange. He's almost dead. Get the taunt here. So anytime that, just to refresh people, anytime the AIM Security gets hit and she's above, I believe it's 75% hit points. I'll have to double check that again. That she just reflects everything back to whoever hit them. So in this case, you know, all those supernatural are like and any debuffs that still happen to be there, and then boom, we just flip it all, extend all the buffs, and then regen. Everyone gets regen. So that's great. We need to finish this Doctor Strange. Come on. And then we'll just I think at this point he'll probably die from no bleeds, but so we'll try and spread some slows and bleeds and stuff to everyone here. Do some extra damage. Graviton does do quite a significant amount of damage. Maybe won't. Yeah, it can't reflect quite yet there. We're gonna slow Ghost Rider, or try. I guess it didn't work. And we'll finish. Mordo. Scarlet Witch has defense down. Boom, 110k. Aim monstrosity just hits like a truck. Oh, what? They actually stunned aim security. That's surprising. Okay, we need to debuff Ghost Rider a bit here. And I think we'll actually finish Ghost Rider. Oh, he's blind. Okay, I should have seen that coming. Ooh, and down goes aim assaulter. Ooh, aim security might bite it soon too. I mean, this is a very large punch up, but here, let's get some more debuffs going. And we should really probably try and get Ghost Rider down. I think aim monstrosity is blind. Actually, this could be a bit of a problem. Can we flip? Yeah, we need to flip this. Great. Blind turn flips to stealth. Okay, we're gonna try and kill. Oh, Ghost Rider's so close. That's 90k damage. He just needs like one more hit. Graviton here. I think we can just kill it with the basic. Save some of the skills. And then let's finish off Mordo. 101k. Aim Assaulter's back because that awesome passive by Scientist Supreme. And this is pretty much over here. Ugh, 144k on that Graviton ult. And it's done. It's donezo. Look at that. 101k from Aim Monstrosity on the basic. They are quite the powerhouse, and they are capable of quite a few good things. So I love AIM. They're one of my favorite teams, and hope you enjoyed that Blitz match there. And that's the gameplay footage that I have for AIM. I do want to point out other possible uses for them, and you could easily go up against teams like the Symbiotes, Hero Brawlers to some degree, even with Captain Marvel, although this will be partially made redundant soon when they turn into Young Avengers and things like that. Merc Taskmaster sometimes, if you're punching down, I would say about 20% power, and is a bit luck dependent, but a strong aim security will throw back the blinds and the bleeds applied by Taskmaster. Brotherhood 1.0 you can beat for sure. Possibly Brotherhood 2.0. I haven't tried against. Not many people have Brotherhood on defense, but some do, and I haven't seen it with the Toad and Blob variant, but I'll give that a shot sometime soon. Marauders has a really good chance as well, at least normal Marauders, not potentially Emma Frost Marauders, so if you're watching this in the future, I don't really know much about her yet, because we haven't seen her kit. And it depends on whether or not Sinister hopefully doesn't clone Scientist Supreme, otherwise Scientist Supreme is going to mess you up and flip everything you threw at them. Supernatural, as we saw in the video, they're pretty good punch up against them, and also the Sinister Six as well, because they have nothing, they can't do anything about debuffs. Adding in Ultron to any degree will also largely elevate them into killing a lot more teams on top of the ones I just listed. But what do I think about AIM? I think they're a very well-rounded team and definitely one of the best reworked minion-esque teams in the game, in my opinion. They provide a lot of use in game modes like the Villains Campaign Chapter, including the new Chapter 7, Gamma Raids, there's an aim lane there, and in Alliance War as well, either on offense or defense. Although I personally prefer them on offense, but I used to also have them on defense with Ultron. I prefer offense because I can control the teams a little bit better myself. You wouldn't go wrong for leveling them though, and I would place them probably in the top 10 of teams at this point in the game, even still. And with that, we have come to the end to our episode on AIM. I hope some of this was helpful for you guys in deciding who to use for AIM and where and how to use them in battle. I hope you all enjoyed my third episode in the team review series, and if you did, then please comment down below who I should do next, or any thoughts you have on the AIM team. If you want to see more content like this on Marvel Strike Force, then please hit that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already to stay up to date on my videos. I hope everyone enjoys the start of their week, and until next time guys, stay safe. Boylon signing out.